Welcome to Nintendo Ninja News. I'm your host, Chris Tysis, and we're here to talk about criticisms and nitpicking and things like that from the media about Nintendo. Now, we know that Nintendo is far from perfect when it comes to their stubbornness over their IPs or their YouTube policies, to the way that they handle the online services, the way that they do all sorts of different things to frustrate the fan base. With Nintendo, there's two sides of the coin for them when it comes to new consoles. The Nintendo Switch came out a couple days ago. There's half of the people who are Nintendo fans who just buy consoles for the Nintendo games. And they're happy with pretty much that. As long as the console plays fine and they play their games, they're happy. However, there's the other side of the fan base that wants Nintendo to modernize, using good online services, having a straight console that just has a standard controller that plays games and has good things. And they're the ones who get overly frustrated at Nintendo refusing to modernize or just be the same like the others. And with Nintendo, yes, there are some definitely valid criticisms. No messaging system for the online service, using a smartphone now to do voice chat for that. Sometimes Nintendo's innovations is about innovating for the sake of innovation, and sometimes it doesn't mean that it's a better option for them, and that's a problem for them. However, some critics like to take things too far and like to nitpick and find things that are rather pointless. Even this morning, the YouTuber Blunty decided to have just a small rant about the capture shot feature of the Nintendo Switch, saying that it's only 720p instead of 1080p images, which is a really clear sign of nitpicking. Now, he said that it was a small issue, but the fact that he still made a video about it shows that it was a big enough of an issue to tell the world about it. And another stab at Nintendo. A lot of the media likes to do these nitpicking and gotcha moments, trying to find a hole in Nintendo. And to be honest, while Nintendo can produce something like a masterpiece like Breath of the Wild, every time that happens, there's probably a whole line of little problems and issues that Nintendo creates for themselves because they're fairly stubborn about certain areas. And the nitpicking is really, really annoying. Of course, some of the criticisms over this week about the Nintendo Switch that came out is numerous. The Joy-Con desyncing, scratches on the dock, which I don't understand how you actually scratch the dock, seeming there is actually space between two of them. To me, it sounds like people are not being very careful with the dock and just doing this inside the dock. Violently putting the docks in there. And sure, the desyncing issue is something that Nintendo should be looking to fix. But you know what it's like? It's a small group of complainers that tend to have the biggest voice. And then something that is a small issue tends to build up into a massive issue where every media site is reporting on the issues and it's doom and gloom for Nintendo. Now, it may be a big issue for some, the Joy-Con desyncing for that, but it does happen from time to time. The NES Classic consoles, when they were short in supply, everyone shitted on Nintendo for not having enough stock. But then we found out it did sell nearly 2 million units of the actual console, which does show that Nintendo did ship a fair amount of copies. It wasn't like they shipped like 100,000 worldwide and people were basically fighting each other for it. Nintendo thought that people over 30 was going to be the main people getting those consoles. However, the same people who complained about having to buy retro games on the Virtual Console, on the Wii, and the 3DS, and the DS, and the Wii U, bought it for like a fourth or fifth time for the NES Classic. They probably bought it because it was a cute little console that you can easily plug in. But of course, there was even nitpicking on the NES Classic console because it didn't have Bluetooth. It's not going to be able to download more games. It's not going to be able to do online play. and further nitpicking. That console was specifically made for people who did not play Nintendo games for 10, 20 years to lure them back into the fold. It's a closed off console that you just plug in and play. Bit like the original console. Just easy plug and play. But there's always someone that just doesn't want to be happy. And I think it's not just restricted to Nintendo. There is a general negativity in the media industry, the video game industry, about all sorts of things. Negativity sells views, and that's why a lot of YouTubers like to, punch Nintendo in the stomach on a weekly or even daily basis, because it gets them views. It gets people angry, and they make comments, and they get views, and they make money. And they get rev views and website views, and they get ad revenue. So it's almost like, it feels like people are doing it on purpose to ruffle up the fan base and, get a few clicks and views. Now, of course, I'm not saying that Nintendo is perfect. There are definitely some things that I get frustrated with. I've made a slightly rant video about concerns about the expensive accessories of the Switch and the pricing. Now, of course, Nintendo could legitimately say, look, those Joy-Cons for $120 in Australia is worth your money. But at the end of the day, it's the consumer that will decide if that's worth the money or not, in terms of paying, $60 for a little Joy-Con thing. And it does get very, very frustrating. So, what do we do about it? How do we navigate through all the negativity that Nintendo gets? The things that they probably really shouldn't be deserving of getting blamed for. Well, you just got to think with common sense. If you have grievances with Nintendo about YouTube policies and that, then, voice them. But I don't think things like scratching on the dock, probably caused by the user most of the time. It's normally people who don't look after the products very well. I've had the Switch for a few days. I put it in the dock many times, and it's not a scratch because I actually gently put the thing in and make sure that it fits nicely in the middle. But some people don't. They like to just slam the thing in, and then, oops, I didn't look after it very well, which is sad. But it is annoying for me to see Nintendo dealing with all these criticisms, because not only because the problem is the nitpicking on Nintendo really takes away from the real criticisms of Nintendo. One thing Nintendo changed was region locking, which was a big issue for quite a few gamers. They finally now listened. Maybe the next thing is try to focus on their YouTube policies and showing them what are the benefits of them changing their policy, instead of just screaming at them and saying, just fucking change it. Just change it, you scummy and greedy people. Nintendo is very secretive and very protective of their IP range, because that's really their golden goose. You wouldn't say that the hardware's the strongest suit, or their marketing. Yes, the Nintendo Switch marketing has been much stronger than the Wii U. Though really, their IPs are highly protected, because that's really the only thing that Nintendo has going for itself, including a little bit of pot of cash that they have in the bank for a few rainy days. And for the last 5 years, it's been pissing down rain for them for the Wii U situation. Lucky for them, the 3DS was still going. But I thought I would get that off my chest about the problems of Nintendo. And running a YouTube channel, you see the criticisms all the time. And I think for YouTubers, I think they purposely look for something about Nintendo and try to poke a hole in it. There was even one article about there's a chance there won't be additional docks in Australia, but was proven false when I went to the store and they said, yeah, we've got about a dozen of them or more in our actual store here in Australia. It's a sad case, and it gets really, really annoying to see these issues happen over and over and over. And I hope that there are some improvements in the future. So, that's it from me, and I shall see you later on.